Cloud. All right. Welcome to the First Fridays Wellness Cafe with Lauren and Maria. Today, we are actually having co-hosts. Lindsay and Sherry are going to take over today, and they're introducing the topic of Ayurveda. So we are very excited to be able to have a guest host today. And this is a pretty unique topic. And they approached us about, coming in and sharing their information. They're both have a lot of experience with the topic. And we said, yes, the whole idea of the Wellness Cafe is to be a resource for you guys as members to learn about nutrition and wellness and all different areas. So I will not talk anymore. So they have their time. They put together a presentation and then we'll have questions and answers at the end. So thank you so much for joining, and I'll turn it over to Sherry and Lindsay. Thank you guys.
So, hey, everybody, welcome. It's me, Sherry. I'm going to start, and then Lindsay's going to come in after me. I'm going to give a little more of an overview, and then Lindsay's going to come in and talk a little more depth in a couple of pieces. But first of all, just Ayurveda in itself is, you can go to like an Ayurvedic doctor. So Lindsay and I are really just kind of touching on the surface of this today. Neither of us are Ayurvedic doctors. I am actually about to start an Ayurvedic counselor program. And so after that's kind of the first step, you become an Ayurvedic counselor, then an Ayurvedic practitioner. I don't know that I will go all the way, but then you can actually become a doctor of Ayurveda. So just to kind of let you know that it is, there is a lot that exceeds, our current knowledge to give you as well. But Ayurveda is kind of a holistic approach to health. So it looks more of kind of the person as a whole, and a big piece of Ayurveda, and Lindsay's going to go into this a little bit more, and we're going to send you out a little quiz that you can kind of take to start to get an idea, is your dosha. So we all have kind of this specific dosha that is our innate personality. And it's based on, in the quiz that you'll get if you choose to take it, it's based on like the shape of your body, and then kind of your just constitution, how you, so I'm Vata. So Vata is very like flighty, kind of talks fast. So I will try to slow things down and not talk too fast. I would guess, Lauren, you probably have some Vata in you as well, right? Really kind of quick. I never really sat still. Whereas Kapha is a lot, milder, slower. Most of us have kind of a combination. So I'm like Vata Pitta. So anyway, you're going to get a little bit more on that. We're not going to actually take the quiz today. Lindsay and I are hoping maybe later in this summer to do even a more in-depth workshop and go into things a little bit more. But you'll hear us use those words, Kapha, Pitta, and Vata. So I wanted you to know a little bit. That is your Prakriti. That is your kind of your constitution. It is the way you are. Now we can become imbalanced in the way we are, and then kind of start to have characteristics of other doshas. And that usually we want to come back into our balance. But so what I'm going to start with today is just kind of some general routines that Ayurveda puts out there that are basically good for everyone. So it's kind of doesn't really depend on what season it is or what your dosha is. Lindsay's going to get a little more in depth of how things change kind of based on dosha or season, but just some general things that Ayurveda says are good. One of their main things is they say, awaken before the sunrise. Now I am guilty. I do not awaken before the sunrise. And so you will just find, some of us have a little bit different tendencies, and Vata is the constitution that does kind of sleep a little later. So it's kind of funny to kind of know that. Kapha. So Lindsay, you probably have a little Kapha in you as well. Kapha is kind of that early to rise. Kapha time is like early in the morning. But that's just kind of a general thing, is that you awaken before sunrise and you start this little routine. You go to the bathroom. So you awaken before sunrise, you go to the bathroom. And then you want to scrape your tongue. So as we sleep, we get this buildup of ama, which is just kind of the digestive waste. And so if you do ever tongue scrape, I do this, it's really kind of nasty. I mean, this gunk comes off of your tongue. Like it's kind of gross. But think, if we're not scraping that off, we're just recycling it back through us throughout the day. So you wake up, you go to the bathroom, you do some tongue scraping, maybe some oil pulling. So oil pulling is I use coconut oil, but kind of depending on your dosha, there's different oils that are kind of recommended, but really you can use any of them. And I actually use a little bit of essential oil in my coconut oil. So I just take it, coconut oil is kind of hard at room temperature. I just take a scoop of it. I put what would be known as thieves oil. I don't use that brand. They're each oil kind of has its different name, but it's just kind of a detoxifier. And you just swish that around in your mouth. I mean, you can do that for like 10 or 15 minutes. A lot of times I'll do it when I'm in the shower. So I'll just swish the whole time I'm in the shower. So again, that's just kind of cleansing out those impurities. Ayurveda says, then we bathe. Right now I teach fitness first thing in the morning. So oftentimes I'm not bathing till the afternoon, but again, these are just general, like good, healthy routines that Ayurveda says is good for everybody. And then, so after you're cleaned, after you have practiced your cleansing routine, it says you come to your mat. You come to your mat and you do some asana, you do some movement. And then the movement gets your body kind of, in the routine of things. And then you flow into practicing breathing, your pranayama. So Ayurvedic and yoga are very much like sister sciences. They both have kind of originated in the same time. So you move and then you breathe, and that sets you up for your meditative time. And that's kind of your morning routine. And all of this happens before 8 a.m. because then Ayurveda says at 8 a.m. or a little bit before even, then it's breakfast. So if you go, I haven't personally done it, but I've had many friends that have gone to India and actually stayed in ashrams and stuff and they get up at sunrise. You go through this entire routine, you have all your practice. And a lot of them go to like Ashtanga yoga places. So they do a whole Ashtanga practice, and then you have breakfast, and then you kind of go about your day. So these are just good general routines. I don't always do this before 8 a.m., but I do practice many of them and as often as possible. And then just some other general things like that you probably hear, just good in general, right? Wash your hands before and after you eat. Brush your teeth after you eat, right? We're cleaning out all of that leftover digestive stuff. Ayurveda suggests after meals, going for a walk, going for like a 15-minute walk, just to help your digestion. When you eat slowly, be mindful, tune in, right? I am really, really bad at that one. I'm like, oh, it's time to eat. How many things can I do at the same time? But it's just being, kind of that whole concept of mindfulness, which is also very big in yoga. Ayurveda, another thing that really important is self-massage and using oils. And you use different oils kind of based on your dosha. So a lot of times it'll be either coconut oil or sesame oil. Those are two kind of big ones. And it's, again, based on kind of your dosha. And we're just, we're touching on things here today. And then Ayurveda says, be in bed, be asleep by 10 p.m. So my personal, I'm a little bit, I would say I do really well if I live in Texas, but I'm on California time. then I'm in bed by 10 p.m. I'm more of like a 7 to 11 person, wake up at 7, go to bed at 11. So, I'm a little bit off. But the main thing to kind of take into that is that routine. Right. So we get up at the same time every day. We go to bed at the same time every day. And you might have to shift that a little bit, just kind of on your personality. Like I'm Vata. So Vata is one that's, a little, they'll say you get to sleep a little bit later. Just a couple of other general things. And then Lindsay's going to kind of go in a little bit deeper, kind of how this relates to various seasons. Your diet, general diet and digestion, feedback. Ginger is amazing for digestion. So Ayurveda suggests like adding ginger and a pinch of, it even says fresh ginger, grated ginger with a pinch of salt is a great appetizer. So if you eat like a little bit of pure ginger with a little salt on it, like before a meal, great appetizer. Or adding ginger to like your ginger tea, ginger water. They also even say like adding ginger to buttermilk. I don't drink buttermilk, but that is an Ayurvedic thing. And a lot of times if you go to see an Ayurvedic practitioner, they're going to actually prescribe some of this. So again, these are just general things, that work for everybody. Overeating is unhealthy. We know that, right? So really in Ayurveda, they say, don't even eat till you're all the way full. Like eat till you feel kind of satisfied, right? And then stop. Because in the West, we have such an abundance of food, right? That it's so easy for us to just overeat and take in. Drinking water, like you don't want to drink your water immediately before or after food. So it's not that you can't have a little water while you're eating, but you want it to be just some small sips, because what happens if we like chug water, like right before we ate or at the same time that we're eating, it's diluting all of the stomach acids. And so that's going to hinder our body's natural digestive process. So, and you'll see that I've seen that even in like Western medicine, they'll say, it's fine. Sometimes you need a little sip while you're having your meal, but don't drink your bulk of water while you're eating, because you want those acids in your stomach to be able to break down the food. So we should be, drinking our water throughout the day is much, much healthier than, just gulping it. We don't ever want to really gulp. They give some advice on like storing our water in a copper vessel. I use stainless steel. I don't know. I mean, I'm sure you can get like copper vessels, but they even say what you can do is take it. I've never tried this. I might have to do this. You'd want to make sure it's really clean, but you can place a copper penny in kind of your water container, because that copper has these great healing effects. That's someone I'd have to, research a little bit more. I've never personally tried that. It's supposed to be really good for your spleen and your liver and the whole detoxifying to have that copper. Ayurveda says don't take a nap during the day, really, right? So they're really kind of, you sleep through the night, except if you're kapha. So it will say a little bit if you're kapha. Kapha has more of that kind of slower, and kapha also tends to rise earlier. So a short, brief, kind of up to about a 30-minute nap for kapha is sometimes prescribed, but especially they say napping after lunch, right? It really messes up with your digestion. So you don't, we kind of get that afternoon lull. We're like, oh, we're going to take a nap. They don't really recommend that. Just a couple of more things, and then I'm going to kind of turn it over to Lindsay, kind of back to the waking up, wake up and see the sun, see the light. They even recommend like going outside and gazing into the sun for kind of 10 minutes first thing in the morning, to really, what it does is it sets our biological clock. Our cortisol will increase so that we have that energy to go. And then at the end of the day, when it gets dark, our melatonin starts to produce and we're ready to sleep. So what I'm going to do is you're going to get kind of this little thing that I'm reading off of. And I didn't even read exactly every single one of them, but these are just some brief, general guidelines for anyone. They come, and the book is referenced at the top too. They come from this book, Dr. Vincent Ladd. He is one of the leading Ayurvedic gurus in the West. He runs the Ayurvedic Institute out of New Mexico. He has a lot of books, but this one's pretty basic, so and not super long. You can read through it in a couple of days. Some of it will be a little bit like, ooh, I don't really understand that. But most of it's pretty basic. So if you just wanted kind of a book to just be like, oh, I want to know a little bit more about Ayurveda. And then in here, this is the quiz I'm going to send you. And we're also going to send you a link if you want to do the quiz online, but to find your dosha. But I want to talk just briefly about it before I turn it over to Lindsay. So when you do your dosha, so just for example, skin, all right? So you're either Vata, Pitta, or Kapha. And so it says dry, rough, cool, brown, or black is Vata. Then Pitta is like soft, oily, warm, fair, red, yellowish. And then Kapha is thick, oily, cool, pale, or yellow. So immediately when I look at that, I'm like, I have dry, rough skin, but I also have very much of a yellow tone to my skin. So the Ayurvedic practitioner that I did this quiz with, she says you check everything that applies. So I would circle Pitta and Vata. I'm not Kapha. Kapha just really doesn't fit me. And then at the end, you're going to kind of, and I'll put this in writing too. At the end, you're going to kind of add up. I have 10 Pittas, 3 Vatas, 1 Kapha. And, you know, whichever one you have the most of, that's your dominant dosha. The other piece of this is to fill it out by your kind of natural tendency. So if you took this test and you were a little out of balance when you took it, maybe something's happened and you're a little extra angry about something, that's going to show up as an imbalance. Thank you, Elishiva. And we have that too. So when you take these tests, like with an Ayurvedic practitioner, you take it with just kind of your natural constitution, and then you retake it often, kind of based on your in the moment, because what that does is it helps you find the imbalances. So we're going to send that to you. We're also going to send you a link. The link, if you want to do it, it kind of gives you some great feedback afterwards, but you have to enter your email. The other thing I'm not positive on that is it might only let you choose one. So you might not be able to choose Pitta and Vata if they both apply. So that's why I kind of like the handwritten one, because sometimes you might think all 3 apply. And that's because we do truly have all of these constitutions in us. We're just more dominant in one than the other. All right, I know that was super quick and fast. Lindsay's going to go a little more in depth on things. And then of course, you know, we'll come back with maybe a deeper workshop at some point. All right, Lindsay, sorry, I went a little long.
No worries. Hi, everybody. All right, so I'm going to talk a bit more about the doshas and just break them down a little bit. So what I love about Ayurveda and the doshas is it's one with nature, and we use the elements to determine our dosha. So the elements we are working with is wind, so that's the Vata component, wind, fire, which is the Pitta, earth, and water. So those are the 4 elements that we think about with the doshas. So and with our doshas, we are born with our dominant dosha. So whatever our dosha is, we're just born with it. It's done at conception. So with that, what we work on is balancing it. So I'm a little bit more Kapha and Pitta, depending on the season, but we're working towards bringing in the other elements to add that balance or find that balance. So I'm going to break down a little bit each dosha. So Vata is air. So it's about movement. It's about transition. It's about change. So our breathing is that Vata component. Our breathing, that movement. I knew when Emmett would start coming in right now. Oh my goodness. Okay. I'll try to just stay focused. Natural urges. So our natural urges are Vata, and transformation. So as we transform within seasons, as we age, that is Vata. Our motor and sensory functions, our ungroundedness. If we're feeling uneasy, that's our Vata component. And then when it comes to emotions, it would be fear, anxiety, and what was the other one? Emptiness. So if we're feeling lonely and just empty, that's that Vata component. So, and then Pitta, our Pitta component is the fire and water. So more of the fiery. So this shows up as body heat. So if your temperature runs a little hotter, a lot of men, their temperature runs a little hotter, as well as our digestion. It's very important with our digestion, that fire. We need that fire to break down, digest our food. Perception, understanding is Pitta, fiery. Hunger, our intelligence, and then our emotions, anger, hate, and jealousy are as well Pitta. And then with Kapha, a little bit more grounded is that earth component as well as water. So it's a bit more the stability, the slower digestion, if we have maybe slower digestion, lubrication. So the oily, Sherry was talking about oily skin is more Kapha, excuse me. Forgiveness, greed, attachment, accumulation, and possessiveness are all Kapha. So I'm going to read this quote. No individual constitution is made up solely of any one element. Each individual is a combo of all three elements with predominant tendency with one or more. So talking about those doshas, I'm going to talk a bit about the seasons and how they show up in seasons. So summer is a really easy one to look at because it's very obvious what we need in the summer. So summer is that fiery pitta, that fiery heat. So what we do water activities, right, to balance that out. So we do our water activities. We bring in more hydrating foods like melons, cucumbers, coconut, a lot more coconut throughout the summer. So bringing those in will add that balance. So if you already have a lot of pitta and fire in you, which I do, so in the summer that shows up a little bit more, then you can use these different ways to add balance or just kind of cool yourself. What else did I want to say about summer? Just don't want to miss anything. And then moving into fall, sorry, is the Vata component. So if you think about fall, what's taking place in nature is everything is drying out. The leaves are falling, it's getting cooler, it's getting drier. So it's that Vata component. It's also the shifting of everything drying up and that changing. So what really comes for balance in our Vata season is that groundedness, bringing in that, sorry, that kapha, that earthier. So think about the foods that grow in fall. So we think about pumpkin, more like squashes. So those are going to be more grounding for us in that Vata season. And then also our spices. So we think about what's popular in the fall is our chai, right? Our pumpkin chai lattes. So you think about the spices that are in chai. So it's cinnamon, very warming, very grounding for the Vata season, is that warming cinnamon, cloves, and our pumpkin chai. It's a great example. And then moving into winter is more kapha. So it's a lot slower pace, a lot more earthy, where we stay inside more. And it's cold. So the idea is we're bringing in more nourishing, warm foods, as well as those spices. So Sherry mentioned ginger, but we're bringing in more cinnamon. So you think of the holidays, like those kind of spices, nutmeg, cinnamon, cloves, those are very popular around holiday time. So those are very just warming and just helps our digestion system too, because in the winter our digestion slows. So we want to bring in that fiery, those spices to help speed up our digestion. And then for spring is a combination of kapha, earthy, and pitta, fiery. So what's happening in spring? Everything's melting. So it's quite a bit of Vata too, because everything's melting, moving, shifting, things are blooming. And then we come into like the warmer part of the season, where we bring in more of the fruits for cooling, like what's in season in the spring, like mangoes, apricots, grapefruit, kind of those cooling aspects too. And then one thing I wanted to say about summer that I missed was summer is the greatest time to eat those raw foods and those salads. So the cold foods are best in the summer. Well, too, because our digestion is faster. So we're able to break down those foods easier. So you might even be able to tell, like if you're eating a salad in the winter, it just might not feel right. Like if it's snowing outside and freezing, right? We usually want those warm drinks and warm foods in the winter. So summers are best to eat the raw time. And then for any time throughout the year, during the transition of seasons, khichdi is a great meal that we can bring in for cleansing, but always also just helping our bodies transition into the next season, or anytime we need a cleanse. Khichdi, it's a rice, mung beans, and then you can add any kind of spices according to your dosha. So for like a more pitta, fiery dosha, we would add like coconut and cilantro to cool. For kapha, we would add more cinnamon and cloves to heat. And then for vata, there's a hing hing. You can get it at an Indian food store, but hing is a very good spice to add for Vata, for grounding. So khichdi, there will be a couple recipes in the Joyful Belly, the Dosha Quiz we're going to send you. They have great recipes on that website. So if you want to check out a recipe for khichdi, it's something I try to do when every season change, but it's very, very just cleansing and grounding, or balancing, I should say. So make sure I didn't miss anything. I think that's all I have, but I'm just so passionate about this subject, and it's really, really helped me in my health and just finding overall balance, and just having more of a holistic approach to my health overall. And I love yoga, so that works, that it's the sister science of yoga. So I know we went over a little bit, but if there's any questions anybody has, we'd love to answer them. See here, a couple minutes. Yep. All right. Yeah. So let us know if you have any questions here. And I'm done talking. So if y'all need to go. And
hi, Lindsay, it's Kaylee. I'm really interested in this, but it seems like a lot of information to learn. So what would be your guys' recommendations on just trying to start, where would you start if you were just going to start with a few things to get in the habit of it and then add more on later and later?
Yeah, I know it's a lot. It's overwhelming, even for, Sherry and I that have been practicing this for a little while. It's still overwhelming. I was reading through the book, trying to figure out what to break down, what to tell you all, because it can be overwhelming. But the greatest place to start would be the Dosha Quiz, finding out your dosha, and then you can go from there. So we're going to do hopefully a workshop that we can bring in the more yoga aspect of it for your dosha. So knowing your dosha, and then going from there as far as yoga, nutrition, and oh my gosh, here comes Emmett. I locked him out of the other door. So yeah, Sherry, do you want to?
Yeah, so I was just going to kind of see what she was saying. Once you take your dosha, and so again, you'll have a couple of ways to do that. You can do it through Joyful Belly. We're going to send you that link. And what it's going to ask is for your email, and it is going to send you email stuff. But if you take the quiz and you find your dosha, Joyful Belly is then going to send you some information about that dosha as well, and some things that you can do. Or you can do the dosha quiz that we're going to send you, and then you can start to even just Googling a little bit, how should I eat for Vata, or what oil should I use for Vata? And you'll start to get some information on that. There are some books. This book that I have linked, it's probably just kind of the easiest book to try, because it's fairly short. And so just to kind of start to get a little more general background. It's a pretty simple book, and they have it on Amazon. And it does go into, so once you know your dosha, there is these entire charts in here of kind of what foods work best for you and kind of what season. So I know for me, being Vata, especially in the colder seasons, I have to eat all my vegetables cooked. And before I even really knew Ayurveda, I just kind of noticed that I liked the cooked vegetables better, especially except the summer. And then I started reading about it. I was like, oh, it's because I'm Vata, and that's the way I should be eating my foods. And in the summer, you can do more of the raw foods. So yeah, like Lindsay said, find the dosha, because then once you have the dosha, you kind of know what your techniques are. The other piece I would add to that is just general, kind of some of those routines that I went over in the beginning. The oil pulling, the tongue scraping, and those are just kind of general, good, healthy routines. So you're going to have that. I'm going to send that to you, and it tells you what I kind of adapted it from a couple of pages in this book, but you're going to have those general routines that you can start to look at. But yeah, because it is really in depth, and I feel like, I'm just the iceberg of it. And that's why I'm actually starting a training. It starts next week. It starts May 14th, to be an Ayurvedic counselor. So I'll have even more information coming as I learn more also.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kaylee. Anything else? I know we're kind of out of time, so, but I don't think we mind staying if there's a couple of other questions. It's
I have
Yeah.
one, Sherry.
Yeah.
Is the major reason to understand this primarily for your gut health? Is that?
That's a big role in it, but it's just kind of health in general. Just kind of, think of it as like going to a holistic doctor, right? They're looking at all parts of you. And Ayurvedic kind of believes that whatever our natural constitution is, like Lindsay said, we're kind of born with these natural tendencies, and now we can get them in and out of balance throughout our lifetime. But we want to address kind of our natural tendencies. So yeah, gut health plays a big role, but just health in general, just living your best holistic, not treating the parts. So, a lot of times in Western medicine, if you go in for a stomach issue, they end up, let's treat this. Let's see if this works, and then, oh, well, that didn't work. Let's try this. Whereas if you go to like a naturalistic doctor, they start just running tests of all things, totally might even seem unrelated, because they start looking for how the pieces fit together. And that's kind of what Ayurveda does. And it will even prescribe like specific breathing exercises, specific, as Lindsay was talking about, specific types of ways that you should do yoga. So for someone Vata like me, I need to make sure that I'm doing some yin and some grounding, because I already tend to be like, woo, all over the place. Whereas Kapha, because they are a little more grounded, they might need a little more fiery of a yoga practice, a little more vinyasa to kind of build them up a little bit. So yeah, it's just kind of the whole body.
Okay, and the idea is to do yoga with it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yoga is a piece of it. Yes.
Okay.
And Lindsay, if you have anything else to add on that.
Yeah, it's about prevention for any dis-ease in the body. So disease, dis-ease. So the idea is prevention is that we're already taking care of finding balance throughout the body before any kind of dis-ease happens in the body.
Yeah, I love that. It's very much preventative. Whereas I think Western medicine is very much, let's come in after there's a problem. Mm-hmm. And Ayurveda is very much, if we're doing all the things right and all the correct nutrition, like we're preventing it, and we may hopefully never have dis-ease.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Yay.
Thank you, Lauren. Checking the chats.
Yeah, we'll get more in depth in hopefully a workshop where we can talk a bit more about each dosha, and then the different yoga practices we can do for each as well.
Yeah, and Steph G is definitely another resource. Really, pretty much anybody, if you're certified in yoga, you're going to get some of the Ayurveda through your training. You're not going to get as in depth, which I think is what led both Lindsay and I know Lindsay's interested in kind of going a little deeper into Ayurveda. They have their own schools, but there's such sister sciences that you're going to get some crossover. I even listened to an Ayurvedic practitioner, and she said she doesn't even view them as sister sciences. She really views them as one and the same, because there's so much like overlap between them. And yeah, Shalise, thanks for your comment. Shalise has done some Ayurvedic work. And she said it's really, really, really helped her to recognize that. Yeah, I think so. I agree. That's why I teach so much yin, because that is not my natural tendency. I am very high-strung anxious by nature. I mean, you'll hear me talk about that in mindful moments all the time. And that's why I've learned to gravitate towards the yin, towards the mindfulness, to balance out some of that very high Vata mixed in with a little bit of fiery Pitta.
Yeah, and for me, I'm more Kapha Pitta. So the vinyasa, I'm just like, it brings so much balance for me. So yeah, I'm in that way, opposite of Sherry.
Well, thank you so much, ladies. This was so great to have you guys host, and it looks like there's interest to do more. So I'd love to see what you guys can put together for a workshop series or what we can put together. And I'll send out the quiz and any notes that the ladies have for everyone that was here. And just thank you so much for being open to new ideas and signing in and, learning about this and asking questions. And if you had any questions you didn't get to ask, just message Sherry or Lindsay, or you can respond to my email from with the class notes, and I'll make sure it gets to them. But yeah, it's such a great group to want to learn different things. I don't know, it's great. It's great to see. I had to make more space today, and that just gets me so excited because, Lauren and I, a few months ago when we started talking about this, we're like, do you think anyone would want to come? And we did like a 15-minute thing, and then that wasn't enough time. And then we added 30 minutes, and it's, it's just a great group of women, and we're happy to continue to, bring new ideas to the Wellness Cafe. So thank you for joining.
Yay. Thank you for having us.
All right.
Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you, guys.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye,
Bye-bye.
everybody.
Bye-bye.